Guys, it's Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, I thought it would be fun to talk about something that a few of my rats did a few days ago. So basically, a few days ago, I took my girls butter, toast, popcorn, tofu, and raisin to a sort of family fun festival. And it was basically a event at a local community college where they had a bunch of family activities going on. And in particular, there was an animal room, which mainly consists of animals that people don't typically think of as pets, or at least the public doesn't typically have a great perception of them. So rats, snakes, spiders, farm animals, just all sorts of animals that people don't really typically see in a pet light. Anyways, the whole point of this room was to educate people about these animals and kind of showcase them in a more positive light. And I got to participate by bringing my rats and having them basically sit on harness on a table and kind of do meet and greets with people. And I brought treats like yogurt and Gerber puffs for people to give them. It's always a very popular thing I find at these sorts of events. I've done some in the past and the rats are always very popular, and the rats seem to enjoy it as well, getting to meet people, but a big part of it is definitely getting to have a lot of treats, which they always very much enjoy. And I think a lot of people kind of come around to them more by getting to actually interact in person and also getting to feed them treats like yogurt off their fingers. It's just, I guess, less scary to interact with rats if you have one licking yogurt off your finger. And a lot of people will come over initially thinking that the rats are going to bite them, or I'll be asked, do they bite me? And just like, what's it like having rats? Like, are they interactive pets? And of course, I'm always happy to talk about rats. So I always tell people about what amazing pets they are and how they're pretty much the least likely animal to bite you. Although, of course, I always preface this with they are animals, so, they can technically bite. It's just that they're very unlikely to. And of course, the rats that I bring to these events are my very confident rats who I'm very sure are not going to bite, even in like crazy circumstances. I'm not going to bring a nervous rat or a bitey rat to an event to meet people, especially not people who aren't really sure about rats. So, of course, I always tell that to people as well. Like, I'm not going to bring any of my rats that aren't social to these events or that have shown any sort of like nipping behavior in the past. Anyways, I went to this event on the invitation of a lady called Cynthia. Some of you might remember me mentioning her on some of these past videos about events I've taken my rats to. She's the lady who bred Olive, Donut, and Pickle and gave them to me. And those girls were really amazing, especially Olive and Donut. They were extremely sweet and human social rats. But anyways, she bred them, and because I'm local to her and I enjoy talking about rats and kind of taking my rats to these sorts of events, she has invited me to quite a few of these events now, and she works with some of the local colleges on doing the kind of animal part of any of their events. So it's a pretty cool situation, and I'm very grateful to her for always inviting me to these because it's just so much fun. I mean, it's really awesome seeing people basically get to meet rats and kind of overcome their fears. Like, I have a lot of people who come up, like I said, who think the rats are going to bite. I've even had people come up who are kind of like really freaked out by the rats and are like recoiling from them. And 90% of the time they end up interacting with them and walking away. And the other 10% of the time, it's not like it's a bad experience. It's just those people who don't want to interact, which of course is completely fine. But yeah, it's a pretty fun experience overall. It's especially fun to see all the kids that come over because kids get so excited about the rats. I think in particular because they're very interactive compared to a lot of the other animals, like you can come up and pet them and hold them and so forth. And just, I think a lot of the positive experience comes down to being able to interact with them like that. And of course, I always talk them up because I love talking about rats and I think they make amazing pets. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention this event because I always like to mention when I take my rats to these things. I always take them in a travel cage with like food and water, and I always put them on a figure-8 harness whenever they're outside the travel cage. And I try to bring enough rats so that I can rotate the groups out. So if I'm going to be there for a few hours, which I usually am, I want to make sure that, after an hour I can rotate to another set of rats, and after another hour I can rotate back and so forth. So having 5 rats this time was definitely a good idea because it was really busy at this event and the rats were really popular. So it was nice to be able to give some of them, some breaks. Of course, I also made sure that no one was being like too pushy with the rats or anything like that. But yeah, I like to bring enough rats that I can swap them out. And having things like harnesses is really great because not only does it prevent the rats from bolting by accident if they get startled, which hasn't happened to me so far, but it is a fear of mine. So having the harnesses there is definitely a good safety measure against that. But in addition to that, having the harnesses on also means that people can't walk away with the rats by accident. Now, I don't think people would do it on purpose, but again, there are a lot of kids and they tend to really like the rats. So I would not be surprised if a kid tried to walk away with one of the rats just because they really like them. And they weren't thinking about it. So having the harnesses is nice because it prevents that from happening and just kind of gives me an extra security measure. Anyways, like I said, it was a pretty fun event. Most of the footage I got of the rats was when they were already pretty tired at the end of the event because, like I mentioned, there were just a ton of people before that. So I didn't really want to film anyone by accident. I was trying to just film the rats. But it was still pretty fun, and even though they were pretty tired afterwards, they did a really good job during the event, and it only took them like an hour of being home and napping to recover fully, so it's really nice to see how fast they bounce back. And it also shows me that I chose the right rats for this because I know from experience that if you bring like a really skittish rat out, it can really impact them and that can have them hiding away for like days. I make sure that I only take my competent rats out for this exact reason because I want them to have a good time and I want them to bounce back quickly even if they get tired or a little overwhelmed. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to share this fun little event and yeah, I will see you guys later. Bye!